Enterprise Management 360, your main source for tech news, analysis, podcasts, and videos for the enterprise.
Welcome to the EM360 Podcast, where we have a weekly conversation with people who are impacting the enterprise tech landscape. My name is Christina Stathopoulos, and I will be your host today. After building out an advanced analytics career in tech, I am now the founder of Daretodata, on a mission to help individuals and corporations take the next step in their data journey. Today I'm joined by Read Maloney, CMO at Dremio, and we're here to discuss the state of the data lakehouse. Welcome, Read. It's wonderful to have you here with us today. Can you begin by introducing yourself? Tell us who you are and also what you and your team do at Dremio.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me here today. Really happy to be on the show. I've been in marketing for about 15 years in a whole wide variety of roles, including, spending about 8 years over at AWS doing infrastructure marketing and really focused on the cloud and seeing what that could bring to companies. And then took a variety of other roles, including being the CMO over at a different startup that was more focused on the AI space, where they helped companies build and manage models at scale much more quickly. And now I've been over here at Dremio, and it's been such an exciting experience where we've been allowing companies to expand their use of analytics across their organizations, bringing a data lakehouse, which is obviously what we're going to talk a lot more about today, unifying their data across the lakehouse, and then bringing self-service to their organization so that they can improve how many customers are using analytics, and then also how fast they're able to get insights. So we're really excited to talk to you about how quickly this trend is being adopted in the market right now, really based on how customers are getting value out of it.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had a wide variety of experience that brought you to Dremio. And like you said, of course, we're going to be talking about the data lakehouse today. So to set the stage and also make sure that we're all on the same page, can you first just explain in your own words, what is a data lakehouse? And then also from that, how do you see the state of the data lakehouse right now?
Yeah, well, a data lakehouse combines the performance, functionality, and governance of a data warehouse with the scalability and cost advantages of a data lake. And that's really where you're getting the term lakehouse. It's a combination. It's the best of both worlds. And one of the questions we talked to our customers about was just, hey, how familiar are you with this concept of a data lakehouse? And there are obviously multiple different definitions that are out there, but they all sort of bubble down to the same thing. The best of what a data lake provides, the best of what the warehouse provides. And now you really can do everything you could do on a warehouse, you can now do on a data lake. And one of the questions that really showed that is, how aware are you of this concept? And so when we asked 500 different organizations, hey, how aware of you are of a data lakehouse, 85% said they are very familiar with the concept. And that really blew us away. It was much higher than we were expecting it to. And the only reason you would see awareness of a concept grow so quickly is really based on the value that it's adding into the market. So when you see things like different terms or categories get adopted very quickly, or awareness grow very quickly, that's usually due to value differentiation compared to what the current state is in the market.
Okay, I'm actually surprised myself as well. You said 85% are aware of the data lakehouse concept. That's huge, and it's grown a ton, I think, in the last years. But the awareness of this concept that you explained, for anybody in that 15% that's new to this, it sounds like you explained it like this hybrid data architecture that's delivering the best of both worlds. So it's combining the benefits of data warehouses and data lakes while maybe eliminating some of their weaknesses, right?
Yeah. The term hybrid can be a little bit loaded. For example, we actually allow customers to run a hybrid lakehouse, meaning they can run their lakehouse on-prem or in the cloud or both. Whereas there's lakehouses that could be cloud-only data lakehouses. So the hybrid element of this, just to make sure that everyone's aware, is much more about you're doing warehouse-level functionality right on your data lake. So you never need to move, copy, ETL the data into a warehouse. You're just getting your analytics directly from the lake.
Perfect. That's clear. And so we were talking about you ran this survey, 85% are aware, and really Lakehouse adoption is surging. Many are moving away from maybe, let's say, a cloud data warehouse, for example, to a Lakehouse. What are some of the reasons for this shift and this growth in adoption?
Yeah. So, some of the specific stats there is actually we have 69% of our respondents said they'd be running more than half of their analytics out of a data lakehouse architecture in the next 3 years. And that really says it's going to be, if it's not already, but it's going to be the predominant way, or architecture, I should say, for how analytics are delivered across an organization. And the number one place where that data is coming from, you just alluded to, is from a cloud data warehouse. Specifically, 42% of our respondents that said, hey, where's the data coming from? Is it coming from an enterprise data warehouse or a cloud data warehouse or a data lake? Said, look, we're gonna move the data from a cloud data warehouse to the lake, is the highest percentage of all of them at 42%. And one of the things we keep hearing from our customers around cloud data warehouses is cost. And that showed up as one of the main reasons. It's not the only reason, but one of the main reasons that customers are moving to a data lakehouse. And in a data lakehouse architecture, they can put their data straight on the lake. They can get the exact same performance and the same functionality that they're getting out of a warehouse, but they don't have to spend all the time and effort of moving the data from the lake into a warehouse and then supporting and managing the whole warehouse. So you can imagine that takes a lot of cost out of the equation. And so when we talk to customers about that, more than half of the respondents, so that's 56% in this case, think they're saving at least 50% with a lakehouse. And actually 20% think it's, and even 76 to 100%. So 20% think they're getting, we'll say, of 1/4 to much higher levels of savings by adopting the data lakehouse.
Okay, so the main thing is it's more cost effective, and it looks like as well that I read your mind about the cloud data warehouse. But yeah, so more cost effective. And since we're talking about the business side here, how can an effective lakehouse strategy be the key to digital transformation?
So when we look at digital transformation with our customers, so much of their digital transformation is ensuring that they can get data into the hands of as many individuals as possible. Now, obviously, they want to do that in a governed state. They don't want everyone to have access to every bit of data, but they do want to eliminate data silos, and they want to make sure then that the users themselves can create the data sets that they need. They can run dashboards and queries against that data, and they don't always have to come back to a large engineering team. Those engineers have lots of different projects they want to work on in the backlog. And if they're continually dealing with errors of really long ETL chains to try to build even now more pipelines for the business, they're left with sort of this web and mess of different ETL jobs and pipelines to manage to keep delivering that data. Whereas if the business can go and do that themselves, which we think about shifting left, where meaning you're getting the consumers of the data closer to the source of the data in terms of where they start to interact with it, then you're actually able to drive a lot more self-service in the organization. And while lakehouses help customers do that by removing one of the pieces that's typically in the chain from source to consumer, which is the warehouse, tools such as Dremio provide unique capabilities that really allow the business to very rapidly build views and iterate on their own without actually affecting the performance of the system based on capabilities such as our intelligent query engine.
So I have that these data lakehouses are helping put data into as many hands as possible. You're eliminating silos, it's more self-service, and Dremio is helping with all of this. And I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I like to call this data democratization. So democratizing the use of data for all.
We agree with that, although we'll sort of talk about it with our customers in the language that makes sense to them internally. So there's this concept around a data mesh architecture as well, where one of the pillars is a self-service analytics. And actually, I think a lot of the other pillars, such as federated computational governance and managing data as a product, those are required or help to roll up to be able to provide self-service analytics. And I think that concept as well is related to data democratization and digital transformation that customers are going through. And sometimes we'll see customers approach us from, this is their entire organization. They're trying to move to this kind of concept. And sometimes they start more with a specific department, let's say such as supply chain or something like that.
Yeah, got it. And I feel like I have to ask you this since it's such a hot topic, but how does all of this relate to this era of AI that we find ourselves in?
Yeah, so I think in two ways, which is I believe that AI has helped to drive the adoption of lakehouse architectures, but also lakehouses are often being used for AI. So there's a little bit of, which one's driving which right now. And so from our survey, we asked customers, are you currently using your data lakehouse to support data scientists in building and improving AI models and apps? And 81% said yes. And what's happening with the data lake is you're combining all sorts of data, right? You have structured, unstructured, semi-structured data, basically everything that the data scientist could want to work with when building AI models. And now with a lake house, it just provides you even more functionality in terms of working with that data that's in the data lake. And so that can be from, hey, I want to go and combine all of these different data sources together to be able to create this data set that I'm going to be able to do feature engineering off of. And the lake and now Lakehouse provides an ideal state for those data scientists to work in to be able to access and combine those different data sources.
Okay, and that's a huge number, by the way. I think you said 81%.
Yep, 81.
From the survey, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think honestly, initially with data lakes, you saw a lot more data science being done on the lake than analytics. And with the advent of the lake house, you're seeing a lot more analytics also be done on the lake. So now you have analytics and AI being on the lake. So when I think we weren't really that surprised by this result, because if you had a data lake, I think a lot of customers are even still in, hey, we're modernizing our lake into a lake house in early stages, or still calling that a lake house. And they're familiar with the concept. And so when you're asking about AI on the lake house, well, yeah, a lot of customers were already doing AI on the lake. So it makes sense to us that the adoption of AI workloads on a lake house would also be very high.
Yeah, that does make sense. So using it a lot for both analytics and AI, machine learning.
Yeah, I just think that the analytics piece is actually the newer piece of the two in terms of the workloads on the lake. And that's really what the advent of open table formats help to allow, which is without the open table formats, you're only able to do read operations. You're only able to say, tell me what's in this data set using SQL and answer questions from the data that's there. But now with open table formats, you're also doing write operations. And so that's giving you a lot more of the warehouse functionality directly on the lake.
Got it. Okay. And as we're coming towards the end of this conversation, this episode, I have to ask if you have any final takes or thoughts on data lakehouses, on how data lakehouses are empowering businesses, or maybe what's to come.
Yeah, and we touched on it a little bit earlier with self-service and with digital transformation, which is, if there's no reason to do a lakehouse just to do a lakehouse, right? It's about what is the business driver of having a data lakehouse. And so one of the ones we talked about is cost. So there can be a cost component because you're simplifying the architecture. But when we talk to customers, even if they're originally making the move from a cost perspective, the value most of them end up getting is from the self-service piece. And so you need to be able to have a user experience that allows the customers to be able to bridge multiple data sources and then quickly create views and work off those views. But you also need it so that the performance of the system won't suffer as the business jumps into self-service. And you need to be able to govern the platform as the business starts to move into self-service. And these are all capabilities that Dremio specifically provides with its Lakehouse. So we can unify across multiple different data sources. And then we have a really easy to use experience for our data consumers. And then we allow the engineering teams to create materializations of those views. And then our query engine's smart enough to actually know those materializations exist, reads them instead of the views to optimize for performance. And they can do that without actually ever talking to the business. So they can just look for hotspots and manage performance of the system, whereas the business just keeps running and moving really quickly. And that's probably the most common pitfall we see within business units. We see that they have this concept of self-service, but in the end, they either have to keep going back to the engineering team because they have to manage the performance of the system, everything slows down, or they start just grabbing the data and copying it and moving it into their BI tool of choice, which is called an extract. And then you're back into a lot of manual work, things that are error prone, can't be kept up to date. And that starts to defeat the purpose of self-service. And so we're really passionate at Dremio about enabling the business to move quickly while ensuring the performance of the system stays up and running and is really, really, really good. And that's really one of the pieces that I think gets lost in the Lakehouse conversation is not all Lakehouses do that. And our organizations the organizations that really are striving for self-service, they typically end up with Dremio.
Okay, so highlighting the self-service piece, and I can say that I can completely relate with what you were commenting about, that we say self-service, but then in reality, many times it's not. And I think a lot of listeners can relate to what you've just commented on.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I've been out talking about the state of the data lakehouse as a CMO too, which, versus someone that's, coming from the engineering construct, which is, we drink our own champagne with our own Dremio data lakehouse. And we have this as we're still trying to add more data sources into our lake. Oh, wouldn't it be great if I could combine this and this really quickly? Oh yeah, it would. Well, as long as the data we have a copy of that data from the source, from the application itself in our lake, like we can combine product and marketing data together. And now, our analysts can just go out and create, the different views that they need of the data, and we can answer all the questions that we have about our business and start moving faster. So it's something that's near and dear to my heart, having worked in different data analytics capacities, both from the businesses that I've been working with, but also from my teams that have actually struggled with these same problems over the course of my career.
Yeah, perfect. And I can hear the passion in your voice about this subject. So it sounds like we all need to go check this out. But thank you so much for your time today, Read. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts. I've learned a lot. I'm sure that everyone listening in has also learned as well. And thank you to our listeners. We hope that you took a lot away from today's podcast. And for further information on what we've talked about, please head on over to dremio.com, DREMIO.com. We'll be back next week with another episode in our podcast series. Until then, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on all major platforms. Follow the conversation on our socials at EM360 Tech on Twitter and LinkedIn. And for more great daily content, head on over to em360tech.com.